The little girl's laughter rang through the shelter, bright, carefree, until it stopped dead in front of the last kennel. Inside, a hairless dog stood perfectly still, his golden eyes locked onto hers with unnerving focus. "Mom, he's looking at me," Ella whispered, pressing her small hands against the glass. The shelter worker stiffened. That one's not for adoption. But before she could say more, the latch clicked open on its own. The dog stepped out without a sound and sat beside Ella like he'd been waiting his whole life for her. The Carters thought they'd rescued a lonely soul. What they didn't know was that they'd just brought home a secret, one someone would kill to get back. If you love stories that grip you from the first second, hit like and subscribe. And tell me, where are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments. I read everyone. The Carter family had dreamed of this moment for years. After saving every spare dollar and finally moving into their quiet home near Pine Hollow, Daniel and Lena knew it was time. Their kids, Ella and Noah, could barely sleep the night before their visit to Willow Ridge Animal Shelter. Nestled among misty pines and winding trails, the shelter felt peaceful until they turned the final corner. There in the shadowed back kennel sat Kale. Lean, silent, hairless except for a faint ridge along his skull, his golden eyes watched them like he already knew their names. The attendant Marla hesitated. He was found near a decommissioned research site. No chip, no tags. Doesn't bark. Doesn't eat. But Ella stepped forward unafraid. He's not scary. He's sad. To everyone's shock, Kyle rose and walked to her, sitting calmly at her feet as if recognizing her instantly. Marla's voice dropped. He's never done that before. Daniel knelt beside his daughter. Maybe he just needed someone to trust. Against her better judgment, Marla signed the papers. As they drove home, Kyle sat between the children, sunlight glinting off his smooth skin like bronze. Ella whispered, "We'll take care of you." And Kyle turned his head, just once, as if in silent agreement. At first, life with Kyle was eerily quiet. No barking, no chewing, no playful chaos. He moved like smoke through the house, his golden eyes always watching, always alert. Ella adored him, drawing pictures while he lay beside her like a statue carved from loyalty. But when strangers came near, his posture shifted, calculating, guarded. Lena noticed he refused all dog food, yet late at night, she'd hear faint clinking from the kitchen. Once, Daniel found the fridge slightly ajar, Kale standing motionless by the window, eyes fixed on the dark tree line. Then came the TV commercial, a police canine unit in action. The moment sirens blared, Kale sprang up, growling, trembling, eyes wide with something deeper than fear. Later that week, Noah found Kyle already waiting by the front door at dawn, blocking his path. Not aggressively, but protectively, gaze scanning the woods like he saw a threat no one else could. Neighbors whispered. "That's no dog," one muttered. "Looks like something out of a lab." But Ella just hugged him tighter. "You're our protector, right?" Kale blinked once, slow, deliberate, then turned back to the window, ears flicking at every rustle in the wind. It was past midnight when Daniel first heard it, a faint metallic rattle near the fence. Before he could react, Kale was on his feet, muscles coiled, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. He slipped outside without a sound, moving with eerie precision. The flashlight beam swept the yard, nothing. Then Kale bolted toward the fence, barking for the first time, a deep guttural warning that didn't sound like any dog. There in the mud were boot prints, human, deliberate, and the fence splintered outward. Someone had tried to break in. The next morning, police confirmed it. The prints were too clean, too trained. That night, Kale sat by the window again, unmoving, every sense tuned to the darkness. Lena whispered, "How did he know they were coming?" No one answered, but Kale did. He wasn't just guarding the house. He was preparing for war. By the weekend, Kale had stopped eating entirely. His ribs showed, yet his energy never waned. He'd freeze mid-step, ears pricked, staring at the ceiling as if hearing voices through the walls. "He needs a vet," Lena insisted. At Dr. Lynn's clinic, the atmosphere shifted the moment they walked in. Kale stiffened as the vet reached to pet him. During the exam, the microchip scanner beeped sharply, then flashed red. "Restricted," Dr. Lynn muttered, trying again. Same result. a long alphanumeric code with no owner, only a classification tag. He excused himself, speaking in hushed tones behind closed doors. Minutes later, sirens wailed outside. 2 police cars screeched to a halt. Officers stormed in, eyes locked on Cale. "Where did you find this animal?" the lead officer demanded. "At the shelter," Daniel said, bewildered. The officer exchanged a glance with Dr. Lin. "That chip is registered to a classified defense project, Project Orion, decommissioned 3 years ago." Ella burst into tears. "He's not a weapon! He's family!" Cale stepped in front of her, low growl rumbling in his chest. The officer raised his hand slowly. "We're not here to hurt him." "But someone else is." Flashback. Inside a sterile military lab, rows of reinforced kennels held creatures bred for precision, not companionship. Electrodes traced their skulls. Voice commands triggered flawless combat responses. One subject, Cale, stood out, calmer, more observant. Dr. Mara Reyes, the only scientist who treated him gently, knelt by his cage. "You're not a weapon," she whispered. "You're just scared." When orders came to terminate all units, Mara acted in secret. She disabled his neural implant, severed the command link, and opened his gate. "Run," she urged, blood on her gloves. "Be free." Back in the present, Cale stood before the clinic door, golden eyes burning, not with rage but with memory. He hadn't escaped just to survive. He'd come to protect the only family who saw him as more than a machine. Outside, 2 black SUVs skidded to a stop. Tires screeched. Doors slammed. The officer's radio crackled. "Contain the subject. Do not let him leave." But Cale didn't flinch. He turned to Ella, nudged her hand once, then faced the door. The Carters stood frozen as armed men in tactical gear surrounded the building. "You have to decide now," Dr. Lin said gravely. "Hand him over, or take him home and pretend none of this happened." Lena's voice trembled, but held firm. "He saved us. He stays with us." That night the house was silent, every window locked, every curtain drawn. Cale sat by the back door, ears twitching at sounds no human could hear. Then, midnight, a sharp metallic snap from the tree line. Cale lunged. Glass shattered. Gunfire cracked through the dark. Moments later, he staggered back onto the porch, blood streaking his side, a torn piece of black tactical fabric clenched in his jaws. Police found a deactivated military-grade transmitter buried in the woods, meant to override his free will. But Cale had fought it. His body rejected the signal. He chose them. 2 days later, Dr. Lin called with urgent news. His blood shows traces of heavy-duty tranquilizers, weeks old. Someone's been tracking him. Worse, the compounds also acted as signal blockers. "Someone's been protecting him," the vet said grimly, "shielding him from reactivation." As if on cue, a black SUV rolled slowly past the house, windows tinted, engine humming. Cale growled low. The hunt had begun again. That night, headlights flooded the driveway. 3 vehicles stopped beyond the gate. A cold voice called through the door. "Defense Department. Step outside. We're collecting the asset." When the window exploded with a flash grenade, chaos erupted. Cale moved like lightning, disarming one intruder, tackling another, shielding Ella with his body. In the smoke and shouting, he froze only when he heard her cry his name. That pause saved her life. Real police arrived moments later. The attackers fled, leaving behind blood, broken glass, and silence. By dawn, federal agents arrived, this time, legitimate ones. Special Agent Reyes stepped forward, badge gleaming. "We've been tracking rogue Project Orion operatives for months," she said. Cale, designation K-19, is the last surviving prototype. When he was freed, the final command embedded in his neural core wasn't attack or obey, it was guard. He interpreted that on his own terms. Dr. Lin nodded in awe. "He's making moral choices. He's evolved beyond programming." Ella clung to Cale's collar. "You can't take him." Agent Reyes knelt. "No one's taking him tonight. He's earned peace." For weeks, life returned to a fragile calm. But Cale grew distant, staring at the horizon, eating less, sleeping less. Then one morning the black SUV returned. This time Agent Reyes held an envelope. The department's assigning him to humanitarian operations, search and rescue in disaster zones. His instincts can save lives, Ella sobbed. He belongs here. Cale walked to her, pressed his head to her chest, and let out a soft whine. Goodbye. He stepped into the SUV without hesitation. As it drove away, he turned once, golden eyes meeting hers through the glass. A year later, a letter arrived with no return address. Inside, a photo of Cale in Nepal, standing proudly beside rescued children, dust on his fur, eyes calm and alert. The note read, K-19 located 4 missing children in earthquake rubble last month. He hasn't forgotten you. Mia touched the photo, smiling through tears. They framed it above the fireplace, beneath it a collar tag engraved, Forever Family. That night, a cool breeze swept through the window, and faintly, carried on the wind, came the echo of a single steady bark. Somewhere under distant stars, a silent guardian wagged his tail and looked toward home.